First up on our regular action item is the SEL curriculum recommendation. Dr. VanderJagt.
Thank you. So we've heard plenty of feedback tonight from our community regarding the ruler curriculum. We spent a couple of years in a pilot process evaluating. I know there's a number of PBIS specialists, department chairs, teachers in the audience tonight. I just want to thank you for your commitment to the process and taking care of our kids. We'll talk about teacher appreciation in a few minutes, but this was a heavy lift to take care of our kids on a daily basis when some of our kids come in with a lot of, they need support, and you've done a lot for them. I appreciate the modifications that you've made to ruler per request from not only your internal process to the leadership, to our board's questions. Specifically in the elementary school teaching guide for ruler, it states, we recognize, however, that educators know their students and their setting best, and we welcome teachers to design their own lessons to meet the provided objectives if they feel so inclined. That's exactly what you did, and it is appreciated. I would like to also recognize our union leadership. There was a question about from the board about the time our teachers had with the ruler curriculum and the question format that came from administration. I did work with the union leadership and asked them, could you please maybe solicit information from staff so that it's not all administrative driven, but more colleague driven. I'd like to address a couple of the data points there, just so you're aware. The first one is, do you believe that the expected 15-20 minutes for teaching ruler is just right, too much, or not enough? I think if we were to ask this question in year one, it would look different. We have a majority that said it's just right. We have a large group that does think it's too much. So this is a continued process of evolving curriculum. We do not feel like, if approved tonight, that this work is done. We still have work to do, no matter what the outcome is this evening. Second question, based on the changes that this group of experts has made in the curriculum, do you find time for ruler in your weekly schedule? And you can see 88% of our teachers said yes. With the work that they have done, it meets with their expectations for teaching in a week, they would say. Number three, based on, do you believe the time spent each week in ruler is beneficial for your students in your classroom? You can see 73% say it is beneficial for the group of students that they have in their classroom. Number four, and this specifically addresses the conversation this evening, if the school board were to make a decision with ruler or new, what would you rather do? And you can see 76% said they'd like to continue with ruler. Different than the 93% that was there before, but keep in mind this is not the entire this entire population of elementary teachers. There were 93 responses out of roughly 126 teachers that we have at the elementary level. And then the last one was a little bit of an interesting question, was to talk about, do we find something else other than ruler and stick with SOAR? I would remind the board that SOAR is not a curriculum, it's not a social emotional curriculum, it is a behavior expectation that we use in the district. So it's a little bit different conversation, but you can still see an overwhelming support from our experts in the classroom that they support the ruler curriculum. You were just reminded that we did send several surveys out to our community and our parents of kids that are in the elementary level over the past 2 years, but most recently, and a large majority of our parents do support ruler in the classroom. So tonight, the recommendation to the Board of Education is that we would accept ruler as our curriculum as modified by our team, fully understanding that any future modifications may truly come before the board if there are modifications that need to be made. If there are additional components of ruler that are released in a future component, in a future release of ruler, that would also come before the board. This is no different than the curriculum evaluations that we do on all of our curriculum, thanks to our curriculum department, that is reviewed on a regular basis. I will also remind the board that as in other curriculum, if there are changes to what takes place in whether it be society or there are other factors that play a role and we evaluate the curriculum, we could very easily find a new curriculum in the future that we would like to change to. I don't know if that's 6 months from now, 6 years from now, but those are conversations that are regularly reviewed. We are not here to tell you that this is a curriculum adoption that the district would use for the next 30 years, and we won't revisit it. This is an adoption that we would look at moving forward, and that we would say if there's something else that comes up, we do this with our science curriculum, we do this with math curriculum. Quite frankly, we do it with our sex ed curriculum on a regular basis to make sure that we are meeting the needs of our students at the current time, and so that would be an evaluation. So the recommendation tonight is to adopt ruler as its curriculum for K-5 only. We are not into the conversations for secondary yet, for 6-12. We'll have those conversations when we get there. This is for K-5 as it's been modified per the request of the ruler guideline with the experts that are quite frankly here tonight, and that is the recommendation this evening.
Okay, so the motion is that the board approve the recommendation to adopt the ruler curriculum as modified by the district for grades K through 5 as presented by Dr. VanderJagt.
I'll move that.
Motion by Ken. Support. Support by Dawn. Discussion.
Yes, Barb, I have some comments here, and I assume you can hear me okay out there? Okay. I have a number of concerns about ruler that focus on its origins, its methodology, and its intended outcomes. Several in our community have spoken skillfully to these matters. One or more of my fellow board members might also address them this evening. Even if I could put these concerns aside, which I cannot, I would still question the effectiveness of any program that brings a uniform approach to resolving the complexity of human emotions and social interactions, especially involving children. Issues of human emotions and social interactions can only be addressed effectively by skilled and compassionate adults working face-to-face every day with individual children. Apart from the program itself, I need to share my concerns about the process that has brought us to this place this evening. First, let me point out that the primary task of any leader is to bring a variety of people together, unite them behind a common vision, and move them forward. That is what good leaders do. The last thing any leader should do is create division. Ruler has brought more division into our district and to this board than I have witnessed in all the days that I've lived in Hudsonville, Michigan. It is an ideological descendant of Julie Newman's culture creative, which was employed by our district and abandoned years ago. Regardless of the merits or demerits of the program itself, it has damaged us, and it does not have the capacity to heal us. Our mission now should be to find an approach that will bring healing to our board and to our district. Second, I'm troubled over the number of revisions that have already been made to this program simply as a pilot. I've heard numbers something like 60%. That brings into question the wisdom of adopting a program that requires so many modifications to fit it to the Hudsonville community. If I bought a new home and then realized I needed to do a 60% remodel, I would question the wisdom of my original decision. Third, I want to speak to the suggestion that if we abandon ruler as a pilot, we will be left with no means of addressing the social and emotional needs of our children, and they'll be left without any personal resources they need to cope with the uncertainties of daily life. A few years ago, I worked for a financial planning firm as a financial planner here in Hudsonville. My boss wanted me to sell investment products that produced high revenue for his department. And he suggested to me that I could sell more products if I would create a crisis for my customers, make them think that there would be ominous consequences if they did not purchase the product. That's a common technique of Madison Avenue. People with a sense of urgency are more likely to say yes even when it is not the best decision. To suggest that our children would be left adrift without ruler is a created crisis. If we should put ruler aside, we would still possess a wealth of resources for addressing the social and emotional needs of our students. We have a multi-layered system of safety nets remaining in place. First, we have classroom teachers who are highly skilled and deeply compassionate. They are the school's first line of defense in addressing social and emotional needs for our children. No program can do what these people have always been doing. Second, we have building principals and assistant principals who walk the halls and pop into classrooms and know students by name. And they know a great deal more about the struggles of their students than they have been given credit for. They know their kids, and they are here because they care about kids. Third, we have a support staff, everyone from bus drivers to lunch people to custodians to safety officers and many others working in a variety of areas, people who care for our children. They are not here because they can't get jobs somewhere else. They are here because they want our children to be healthy and happy and successful and well-adjusted. Fourth, we have PBIS specialists who can address those complex issues that are beyond the capacity and skills of others. And fifth, and never forget this, fifth, we have parents who love their children more than life and will do whatever is needed to protect and develop them into healthy and productive adults. So refusing to adopt ruler does not create a crisis. We should not adopt any program under that kind of baseless pressure. Fourth, it's been suggested that members of this board are not qualified to make this decision and should humbly accept the recommendation of our highly qualified administrators. I'm not questioning the qualifications of our administrators. They are highly qualified. That's why they're working here. Nor am I pretending that all of us on this board are educational experts. Our president is, but the rest of us probably are not. However, the real issue is about school governance in a free society. Laws of the state of Michigan do not provide that schools should be run by experts, but by lay people within the local communities who are elected by their fellow citizens. The authority belongs to the lay board, and it is an authority which this board cannot abdicate without exposing the district to serious consequences. There are many reasons for lay governance of school boards, not the least of which is that school districts should reflect the values of the community in which those schools exist. It is possible that well-trained professionals could come to a district with values in direct conflict with the community they serve. That would create a chaotic situation. That is why the final decisions on matters of policy, curriculum, human resources, and finances rest with this body. A helpful parallel is the United States military. The head of the military is not some five-star general with deep knowledge and experience in warfare. The head of the military is the President of the United States, a layman. He might have military experience or he might not. Either way, he is the commander-in-chief. The military generals can make recommendations, but the final decision in times of war and peace rests with the President. Students of history will recall that it was the very popular Second World War hero, General Douglas MacArthur, who forgot that constitutional mandate when he served under President Harry Truman during the Korean War. Chief Justice Berger, in his dissenting opinion on Island Trees Union versus Pico, made this statement: a school board is not a giant bureaucracy far removed from accountability for its action. It is truly of the people and by the people. Further, Justice Powell stated that school boards have only one responsibility: the education of the youth of our country during their most formative and impressionable years. It is fair to say that no single agency of government at any level, says the Justice, is closer to the people whom it serves than the typical school board. Of course, it must be said that the one authority higher than this board is the parents of the children, which brings us back to Michigan. And it's our state's revised School Code Act 451, which states it is the natural fundamental right of parents and legal guardians to determine the care, teaching, and education of their children. The public schools of the state serve the needs of the pupils by cooperating with pupils' parents and legal guardians to develop the pupils' intellectual capabilities and vocational skills in a safe and positive environment. So it is this board which must be convinced of the validity and safety of ruler. We can read the emails, listen to the public comments, study the surveys, respect the advice of our administrators. We can and should do all of that. But in the end, we must decide, and we are the ones who will be held accountable for that decision. Thank you.
Other comments?
So for me, ruler is, this whole discussion around SEL and ruler is around student achievement. And how do we enable students through building confidence, through building relationships, through being able to function effectively to the best of their ability in our schools. How do we enable students to be the best that they can be, to take it not just academically is part of it, but also to make the most of their years in school, to try taking that pottery class that they never thought that they could do, to try things and experience things without the burden of troubled relationships that they may have to deal with, without the burden of some of the issues that we have in middle school and high school that we're all familiar with. We've all gone through it, and enable them to really grow and develop and be their best. That's what I believe this discussion is about, and that's what I believe our parents really want for their students. Help my student be the best that she or he can be, and I know that's what our teachers want for our students. So my perspective is this is a discussion around that. Now, I say that not to diminish some of the comments, in fact, that we heard tonight, that there are parents that are like, I'm struggling with this aspect of it. I'm struggling with what my child heard in school today and brought home to me, and I would expect that our administrative team and our teachers are addressing those in an appropriate manner to say, okay, wait, we have a student that's struggling with this or that aspect of it. We need to address that. We need to take care of that. We need to listen to that student. We need to listen to that parent, and we need to address that situation. Every situation will be different with every student. But having read all of the material, having read articles about the background of ruler, having looked at all the videos, having gone and talked to principals and talked to teachers, having seen ruler applied in classrooms, both here at Hudsonville and with some of my own grandkids, not ruler exactly, but the same approach. It's the same basic thing. It strikes me that our parents and our teachers, the majority, are saying this is the tool that will enable, this is an approach that will enable our students to be the best that they can be while they're in the care of Hudsonville Public Schools. And so that's where I'm at. And our teachers, I fully trust our teachers. The data is pretty clear on where our teachers are at and where our parents are at. And I know that our teachers and our principals will do their absolute best. I'm not concerned about, Marxism creeping into the classroom and so forth. I have way more trust in our teachers and our principals than that. And I know that they'll do their best and will tweak and will modify and will continue to make the program the best that it can be to enable our students to be the best that they can be, which is the expectation of everybody in this district, starting with parents, but also with teachers, administrators, this board. So that's it. My comments on ruler.
Other comments?
Yes, I listened to Mr. Hall and to Mr. Davis, and I've done a lot of research myself on this. And this is not a vote for or against teachers. This is not a vote for or against parents. This is a vote having to do what's best for our children. And I read from a couple of different individuals, actually several, who are in the SEL movement programs. And they say this: there's no such thing as a values-neutral social emotional learning program. There isn't. They're all pushing an agenda. And you may agree with the agenda, or you may disagree with the agenda. But to not understand that, in my opinion, is being naive. And so as a board member, I am looking at those things, and I want to know what the agendas are for the folks that are writing these curriculums. And I would encourage you to go look at the background of Mr. Brackett, and go look at the background of one of his lieutenants who was on board for 7 years in building this ruler curriculum. And see where they're coming from. See what they do in their spare time. See what their talks are all about. Okay? And then ask yourself, is this the kind of individual that I want influencing a program within our district? And some people in this room may say, I absolutely want that. Some may say, I absolutely want to stay as far away from that as I possibly can. But that's a decision that each and every one of the adults in this room have to make. Those of us sitting up at this table have a little bit more of a decision to make because we were elected and we were asked to take care of these situations. And we were asked to study and to look at what was going on. And that's what all of us have done. Those people who agree with me or disagree with me, I am sure they have done their homework, and I'm sure they have looked at everything. I have talked to several principals for several hours, men and women that I have a lot of respect for, and they have changed my mind on certain things. When I was first elected, I was no ruler and no SEL. But after talking with these men who are in education, I believe that there is a place for SEL if we can find the right program for Hudsonville. When we have to change 60% of any program, it's not the right program. Our PBS specialists, PBIS specialists are fantastic people from what I understand. And I appreciate all they've done from trying to take this program and customize it for Hudsonville. But there's got to be something that's a little bit closer to where we're at in Hudsonville than having to do all that other stuff. Surveys. Our last speaker articulately raised up something saying 93% of the teachers approve of ruler. That number has jumped in the last year from 56 to 64 to 93. And when I'm looking at those surveys and I'm looking at how they're worded, that can add 10 or 12 or 15 points to any survey. But it was fascinating, utterly fascinating for me to see the latest survey that 93 out of the 124 K through 5th grade teachers took. A survey that was commissioned by the HEA. A survey that I think the results were available on April 23rd of 2023, and I am just receiving today as a board member. I should have had this stuff 2 weeks ago so I could look at it and clearly understand what it said. But you know what? I can look at it and clearly understand what it says. Question 5. If you personally, through a teacher, were making the decision about SEL in Hudsonville for the entire district, would you rather continue with ruler as you currently use in your typical day or week? Now remember, 6 months ago, 93% of these folks said they loved ruler. It's down to 62.4%. Now you could say, well, Greg, that's the way the question was asked. Making my point. 56% to 93% to 62.4%. What's going on? I don't understand how we could have lost so much momentum. These are the same folks who fill out the other survey. So what I'm saying is, folks, that there's a lot of different ideas on what we should do here. This is not a vote against teachers. This is not a vote against principals. This is not about trust or distrust. You know, I want to commend every speaker here tonight, because no matter what side of the issue you were on, you were very respectful in what you said. But in the past, I've had people come up to me and they basically, if I disagreed with them, they equated that to hate. Just because someone has a different opinion than you does not mean that they hate you. And if I disagree with you, it doesn't mean that I hate you. It means that I disagree with you and I think differently about a subject. So, with everything that I've looked at, with all the surveys, which are all over the place, with the teachers telling me this, and principals who I respect telling me this, I'm looking at this, and my conscience has to tell me to vote no. Now, I don't think rule is the thing for us. There might be a better one out there. And I would expect that Dr. VanderJagt and his team will find that and will bring it to us. And we will be united in finding something that everybody can agree on and live with. Thank you.
Any questions?
I'd just like to speak. I would agree with you, Greg. I don't think any of us were sure what was going to happen tonight, and I'm actually really encouraged by the dialogue. This is still Hudsonville, and I'm proud to be an Eagle. Obviously, we have people from different sides came up to speak. There was a lot of wisdom that came out of several people from different sides. These are complex issues that we're dealing with. Ruler's not the savior for any of it. I believe, based upon the hours that I've spent meeting principals, teachers, both in our district and out of district. I've got friends in several districts around here. What are you doing? What's working for you? I don't think there's a perfect solution out there. I don't think it exists. I really don't. When we look at the survey results, there are very strong opinions. I wish there was a perfect answer. I wish there was a perfect option. I don't think we're going to find it. To me, it boils down to the people. You know, as I look out here, I've got family members who are teachers. I've got friends here that are teachers. I have former teachers out here. I don't trust anybody more than you to teach our kids. This is a very complex world that we're raising our kids in. It's getting more complex by the day. I believe emotional intelligence becomes more important every day with technology, with the lack of face-to-face interaction. The leaders in our society going forward will have the emotional skills that not everybody will have. This is not an easy goal for any of us. Our community needs healing. It's been a really difficult couple of years. Tonight's not going to fix everything. I'm encouraged, though, by the dialogue and the conversation that we're going to head in the right direction tonight, regardless of how this goes down. I truly respect and appreciate the opinions that I've heard. Ken, I echo your concern. You know, when we hear of children that have been negatively impacted by this, as a professional in the mental health field for years, 15 years, that bothers me. But again, I trust, as I've gotten to know, that the best thing about being in this position here the last few months is I get to spend time in the schools. I can just go into a school, and I can go into a classroom. I wish everybody in this room tonight had the opportunity that we have. You would be amazed at the things that are going on in our buildings. We have phenomenal teachers. To Mark's point, the teachers teaching in Hudsonville choose to teach here. They know our community. They could go anywhere else. They choose to be here, knowing all the ins and outs of our community. That's why I trust them. And I trust the leadership. You know, I'm thankful that you and the curriculum team will say, we're going to continue to look. Again, this is not the end tonight. So, again, I'm super encouraged about where we're going, incredibly thankful to the leadership in our buildings, to our teachers and our PBS specialists. You've done phenomenal work. You do it every day. And I know you're going to continue to do it as well. Again, there's things to work on. A lot of things far beyond ruler that we need to continue to work on as a community. And we're going to do this together. I really believe that. So that's what I have to say.
First, I want to thank everyone who has taken the time to email me over the past few days and months. I have read all of your emails, and there have been a lot. This week I have not responded to the majority of them because there's just been a lot. I have also spent hours reviewing data that has been provided to the board, and I have reviewed parts of the original and the modified curriculum. I spent a lot of time last night looking at stuff, and I've actually lost a lot of sleep over this. I also want to thank the administrative team for answering all of my questions because I have asked a lot. Since our original review in February of 2022, the PBIS specialists have done a lot of work on Ruler by heavily modifying it into something more suitable for our students and community. I know you have spent many hours looking on Ruler, and I want to recognize you and thank you for that hard work. I also want to recognize our teachers. We have outstanding teachers in our district. That's what makes our district so great. And I am grateful for everything that you do. I know your job is not easy. And this vote is not about a support or a decline for the teachers. You do an outstanding job every day, and I'm grateful for that. I know how hard it is. This does lead me to ask, though, why we are approving a curriculum that needed so much modification to meet the needs of our students and community. First, is that a good use of our resources? Would it be better to take a brief pause and review SEL curriculums that would meet the needs of all students without having to undergo such significant modifications? I believe there are programs out there. I remember talking to a PBIS specialist that had recommendations. This survey was distributed to the teachers, and support for Ruler has decreased almost 20% since the last survey. I'm saddened that we're just receiving this. I received this yesterday, but my fellow board members received it a half hour ago. A question was asked that if you personally, meaning the teacher, were making the decision about SEL in Hudsonville for the entire district, 37.7% of the teachers would either find a new SEL curriculum or just get rid of Ruler and not select a new SEL curriculum. This is concerning. That's over a third. I appreciate people bringing different perspectives to the meetings and helping to inform the board. I was elected because of what I promised, and while the significantly modified version of Ruler is better than it was in February of 2022, I am ultimately concerned with the number of modifications made, and after reviewing the modified curriculum, I'm again asking myself, why are we not evaluating other SEL curriculums? There are better programs we could implement, especially when 1/3 of the teachers from April 23rd on the survey did not support Ruler. So let me put that in perspective. If you walk through any of the hallways of our elementary schools, whether it be Forest Grove, South, or Georgetown, just to name a few, for every 3 classrooms that you pass, We have one classroom has a teacher who wants to get rid of ruler or not use SEL at all. I support all of our teachers, but I do find the statistic of 37.7% concerning. Instead, I would like to see a program that focuses on character, including trustworthiness, dependability, loyalty, perseverance, and self-management skills, all of which will help students succeed and navigate the complex world that we live in. SEL is not required by the state, it is recommended. Thus, I would like to pause for a bit and review what other options are available for our students. When you look at curriculum, when you purchase anything, you are given everything that you need. Where it becomes very time intensive is when you have to start to make a lot of modifications. I do support SEL, but I want to support an SEL program that also fosters teaching characteristics that are important for all students to have as they navigate their future, and not one that is so controversial that it requires significant modification to be suitable. This community needs to heal. This board needs to heal. There are other options out there, and there will have to be compromise on both ends of the spectrum, and I believe we can get there. In closing, I am very grateful to the families who have reached out to me to share both their positive and negative experiences their children have had with ruler. I am deeply concerned with students who have been negatively impacted by it, and I have the emails to share with you. It is these emails that are keeping me awake at night, and I would like to do better moving forward. Thank you. Other comments? Andrew?
I was just looking at Dawn because I wasn't sure if she was going to say anything or not. But Dr. VanderJagt, is the SOAR data publicly available yet, the recent SOAR data?
No, the board will review it on Monday night, and then it'll be available.
Am I able to share any information?
I'll wait till after Monday night, till the board, unless they, I don't know if the board looked at all of it, they haven't discussed it in an open,
Sure.
We'll discuss it in an open meeting, but we'll discuss it on Monday night.
Yeah, from my perspective, I've also lost some sleep over this as well, and I know we all take this very, very seriously. I think this district and the teachers here, including Mrs. Greenman over there, I'm an emotional guy. It made me who I am today. And it's the great teachers have a special place in my heart, and I know that there are these are complex issues, these are complex times. Our kids are going through things now. My children themselves my children are going through things now that I never thought I would, or I never did, but when I was their age. To me, this is not about political agendas. This is not about right versus left. This is not about faith versus not. This is about what's in the best interest of our kids. And this is about what the experts say about social emotional learning and about ruler. And from a political perspective, we're not here to push an agenda, whether it's left or right or red or blue. We're here to serve this district, we're here to serve this community, and we're here to do what's best for our kids, period. And there are, I think, a number of members of this community who, frankly, I share a lot of, from a political perspective, from a faith perspective, I share a lot of the same commonality, a lot of the same sentiments that they do. And some I certainly disagree with. But at the end of the day, that's not what this is about. That's not why we're all up here. At least it's not why we should be up here. We're not here to push an agenda. We're here to do what's right for kids. And we're here to support our teachers and our administrators in a way that's going to make this place the best school that can be. And for it to be the place that I'm proud to have my kids be a part of, and that I'm proud to have been, raised in. And so, it pains me to hear some of the difficulties that certain students have had being exposed to this curriculum. But to Ken's point, and others, I think that there's a way for us to move ahead with this curriculum that is good for all students and that is in the best interest of the district. I apologize for being emotional, but this is the way I am. And just, I guess, one last point. I manage 63 people. I'm the director of our group. When I look at, especially some of the younger people that we've hired recently, and I look at what sets those people apart from their peers, and I look at high performers, high achievers, it's the people that can relate to one another, and to see people eye to eye, that makes a difference. I can hire smart people with great degrees and good GPAs all day long. But what I can't find always is people who know how to connect with one another. And I think this curriculum does that. So, thank you.
Thank you, Andrew. I appreciate your comments, and I think I would agree with pretty much everything you said. Having been in this community my whole life, our family being raised here, our kids going here, I get sentimental thinking that it would be great if my kids and my grandkids could experience what I experienced. And I know that's maybe where Mark is coming from. But I also know that this world is not the same. I think of students that I went to school with who did not have support at home, who did not have parents who loved them enough to teach them. And I wonder sometimes today, during this process, what happened to those students? Because I know how they were treated. And outside of having a supportive teacher, none of us were told to maybe think about how someone else was feeling. I learned that at my church. I learned that from my family. But unfortunately, in the world we live in, that's not the case in every family. And it's a tough world. It's a tough world. And I rely very heavily on my children who have children. Talk to them about this. Talk to what their kids are dealing with. And the social emotional component and understanding words and what words mean is a whole lot different than encouraging bad behavior. And I think that is something that has been said time and time again, that it is telling kids to have these wrong emotions. From what I've seen, it helps them to understand what that means and then to proceed to figure out how to either correct or deal with those emotions. And so I feel for the families who have children that maybe came to them with trauma. Are those special circumstances? Yes. Should they have our support? And should we do whatever we can to encourage meetings with counselors, their counselors as well as school counselors, and the teacher to see what we can do? Yes, because every child does matter. I came from a family that has always lived here, have an extended family, but I know that's special. I know now that that's not the situation everybody comes from. And our school needs to be here to continue to support students who didn't have what I had growing up.
Just to say one last thing, I think we've heard from a lot of different perspectives, and I just want the board to know that whatever we do decide, we're all in this together, and we're all here to serve our community and to do what's best for kids. And I'm committed to doing that.
Any other comments? We have a motion on the table, and we'll do a roll call alphabetical. Nick Bolhuis,
I vote yes.
Greg Chanski,
No.
Mark Davis,
No.
Andrew DeWitt,
Yes.
Ken Hall,
Yes.
Barb Hooper, no. Dawn Sneden.
Yes.
All right, motion passes.